Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mining Experience. My name is Paulina Gallego, and I will be your host today. The Mining Experience is a live podcast that invites professionals from the mining industry to discuss new technologies, address challenges, and share work experiences. I'm a mining and metallurgical engineering student from the National University of Colombia, and I've been working for ProMine for almost 8 months now as a technical support specialist. Here is also our co-host, Mohammed. Mohammed, how are you today?
I'm very fine. Thank you, Paulina. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Zaki, and I graduated as a mining engineer from McGill University. I've been here with ProMine for a little bit more than 3 years, and I'm currently the marketing manager.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. So this month, we will talk about what it's like to pursue a career in the mining industry and how rewarding it can be. The mining industry can open doors to many other fields, and it's important to know which path to take so that you are sure to pursue the right career for you and to stay passionate about your work.
Today, we have the pleasure to host a very special guest, and we are honored to have him here with us, Caelen Burand, an ambitious mining engineering and geology student at the University of Arizona Honors College. As a striving polymath enthusiastic about responsible resourcing, Caelen has been working in mineral exploration and mining since the age of 16 in various positions as a mine geologist, entrepreneur, and engineer within diverse organizations like the Nevada Gold Mines, Cholla Lapidary, and the Last Chance Mine. With a personal mission to improve the status quo, he leads Mercury Free Mining's research program mitigating mercury used in artisanal and small-scale mining across the globe. Furthermore, he is developing a novel transdisciplinary student research hub at the Lowell Institute of Mineral Resources and is founder and director of Young Mining Professionals Arizona. In these roles, he actively works with diverse teams to enhance young miners and the mining industry. During his free time, Caelen enjoys taking care of his dogs, investigating global politics, learning new disciplines, and exploring the rural natural world. And it sounds like he can do everything.
Yeah.
Caelen, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thank you, Mohammed and Paulina, for hosting this. I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Thank
you.
I'm
so excited to be with you here today too. So, Caelen, I would like to start asking you what motivated you to pursue a career in mining and what excites you about mining?
Yeah, so I think that's always a great question. And for me, where it all really started was actually with my great-grandfather. He got the opportunity to be the state mining engineer for the state of Alaska towards the end of the Alaskan gold rush, so early 1900s. And he really enjoyed that position, but he also used that opportunity to help establish some of the main communities out in rural Alaska. And so growing up, I'd hear all these stories about what life was like way in the backcountry of rural Alaska, as well as with the impact that he was able to have as a state mining engineer. He would talk about how he would help work with a lot of the Native American communities and help settle conflicts between mines and the communities, as well as he even helped create like the 4-H club for all of Northern Alaska. And so that was all very impactful for me to be able to understand his legacy and his impact, and that he was able to do that through mining. And that really stuck with me. And it's something that I still try to emulate. With everything I do.
Yeah. It sounds like it almost was an inspiration from someone who passed along his passion, like your grandfather, and it made you really excited to explore that, discipline.
Yeah, definitely. He also had really cool rocks, and as one of the geologists, the rocks definitely helped out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Caelen, can you tell us a little bit about your mining program at your university and how it differs between Canada and the US and possibly other countries as well?
Yeah, so that's something I want to kind of ask you guys about too, is compare and contrast your experiences with my own. From what I can understand about the differences between, I'm most familiar with the Canadian programs and the US programs, is that the US programs don't have as much focus on the co-op pathway as the Canadian programs do. And instead we have a greater focus on shorter intervals of working in the industry that are less related to academia. So a big portion of our education at this level is to be focused on internships and stuff like that. And I think our school does a really great job at helping integrate those into our curriculum, as well as with connecting us to industry members to be able to get those internships. That's definitely a primary part of our school, our mining engineering program. But then other than that, I feel like it's a pretty normal program. We do research labs, a lot of lab-based learning, and yeah, that's about it.
No, yeah, and yeah, go ahead, Mohammed.
Okay. I was just about to say, and well, actually here in Canada, we do focus on the co-op program. Well, at least from where I graduated, mining exists only as a co-op. I think right now they do have the choice to take it as a non-co-op, but when I was there, it was only co-op, and that's the only option that you had. But essentially, you had to find your own internships, and you do get help. There's specifically someone who helps you with that. But essentially, you're the one who had to apply, you had to write your cover letter, your CV, and essentially, I think it was pretty much the only co-op program at McGill, and the goal of it is that mining is really hands-on, and you should. It goes to show that you have to get your hands dirty to really understand how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as a compliment, yeah, I would like to say that it's very similar here. Like, well, for example, in my case, my grade is like mining and metallurgical engineering. So they bring us the possibility to to give us like a little bit basic training on the basic areas you want to, and you can like go more deeply on it. Well, and obviously like with the research groups, as for example, we have different research groups as mine planning groups, mining territory, for example, a group for cement. You can like complement all these areas of interest for improve your skills.
Yeah, so we kind of have a similar system. So I'm also on they call it the metallurgy track, but that means I have a focus on metallurgy. So that's interesting. It's kind of seems like it's a blend between Colombian and Canadian.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but Caelen,
sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, I would like to to ask you also if you can tell us about your internships and experiences. Well, your personal experiences in mining, as you have like more experience in this field.
Yeah. So my first experiences, I guess how I want to go about this is kind of contrast my various experiences. So my very first was at a very small scale mine out in rural Colorado. And it was a historic mine. So it was operating in the late 1800s, kind of right at that transition. So very industrial revolution age, not in any way meeting any safety standards that we have today. So what we were doing though with that mine is that we were meeting the safety standards and helping stabilize it, while also collecting jewelry grade amethyst primarily. And so that was the last chance mine in Colorado. It was a fantastic opportunity for me. I learned a lot. I really learned how to be ingenuitive in a lot of those situations, because we were a very small group, and we were working deep inside the mountain in a very rural area. And so yeah, it was a good experience to learn about how to really problem solve in interesting situations. And so in comparison, um, moving on from that, and that was in high school, and now in college, I've had the opportunity to work with Nevada Gold Mines at their Gold Strike and Long Canyon operations. So both very large scale, very industrialized, great mines, very efficient. And that's been.
And when was that?
Oh, sorry. I was at Gold Strike. So both are in Nevada, northern Nevada, and Gold Strike I was working at in 2020, and then Long Canyon 2021. Yeah.
Okay, so that's very recent.
Yeah. Yeah. So both those experiences were very positive. Being able to see such a large operation and being able to interact with just all the different pieces that go into having a successful operation, that was really intriguing to me. It really piqued my interest in systems engineering, being able to design those complex systems. Just fascinating. It amazes me how Nevada Gold Mines is able to conduct such a widespread operation. And for those who are not familiar, Nevada Gold Mines is a merger between Newmont and Barrick, and they have 22 operations across northern Nevada. And so in the far east is Long Canyon, which sits about 30 miles from the Utah-Nevada border. And in the far west is the Cortez complex, and they sit about 3 to 4 hours apart, driving 80 miles on a highway. And being able to create a system that routes all of that ore through central processing and central metallurgical plants
must be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ore control geologist creating all the different blends, and just a lot of stockpiles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's move on a little bit and talk about back to universities. So in this technological era, how do you think universities are implementing the use of mining software? Do you think that they teach them enough? And what do you think the future of mining programs will be like at schools?
So, yeah, I guess to start off kind of with what I expect to see, I add on to that kind of what I want to see. I think what I'm expecting more of is more of that integration with a lot of the software, a lot of the computer-based mining programs. I think in order to create an educated workforce, it's something that needs to occur. It needs to be integrated more and more within programs. Like for example, with Grasberg out in Indonesia, with Freeport, they're operating that mine hundreds of miles away. Or IM Gold is planning to have their fully autonomous mine up in Ontario. And so I think for programs to stay relevant, they're going to need to continue integrating software and need to continue integrating a lot of these technological aspects of mining, especially in terms of like AI and creating a lot of that autonomous mining operations. And I think where we're sitting currently with how software is integrated, I think that we can improve. So I think that we do integrate it into some of our learning. Where I think it lacks is being able to have professors become fully fluent in softwares that rapidly change throughout the industry. So, software is just like any other platform. They change, and new ones come in, old ones come out. And so I think for professors, it's tough for them to be able to constantly have a good read on what the industry is currently using and be able to communicate with whoever's producing software to get it to their students. And so in my experience, what that has meant is that sometimes we're using outdated or more simplified software that acts more as a base for further learning. But like I said, I feel like that can be improved because I don't think it gives us the full opportunity to understand what's available to us until we are in an internship or in our careers. And at that point, it's puts us behind because we have to go over that learning curve of learning a more advanced software. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
true.
you said, it's definitely a struggle between, having a consistent software that's, that would serve a good foundation for learning, but at the same time, because the industry moves so much, that you want a software to be adaptable to that, but you want at the same time professors to always follow these updates. So it's definitely like a struggle between both. And
Mhm.
I find that, that's why, in my opinion, it's extremely important, the user friendliness aspect of a software. Because if you're doing that many changes in a software and you want your users to immediately just know that, okay, like that new update just happened here and it's easy to use. So you need to make it user friendly. There is no choice, but if you keep
Mhm.
if you don't put that into consideration, then all these updates and new innovations, technologies and all that won't, it won't even make any sense because it's just gonna become too complicated at the end, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm following what you said, Mohammed. That's pretty sure because sometimes, for example, these courses, when they teach you, like, well, when they teach us the software, they are like pretty short when you don't really like can get all the information just in a short course, So it should definitely be user friendly, so you can get the most like the most amount of information in this short time to being able to practice it like in the real life.
Yeah, and then it would also help you to learn on your own.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
also,
Caelen. Go ahead,
oh,
sir.
sorry, I was just gonna add that I also think one of the troubles with integrating software and something I'd like to see also be improved is being able to have the data availability. And I think that's also a struggle for professors, is simply that it's hard to create a situation that challenges students if you don't have,
Like a real
real
life
life
example.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think being able to get access to some data that can be used to actually challenge students really in depth with real world problems, I think that's something that could really improve our ability to educate students and get them fully competent on all of these softwares.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, Kelly, from your point of view, why should people pursue a career in mining, or why shouldn't they?
I yeah, I think everyone should pursue a career in mining. I don't think there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than pursuing a career in mining.
Yeah.
Don't know if that fits for some of the population, but I
Yeah.
encourage them to try.
I find that once you get into it, it's very hard to get out of it. You just can't picture yourself in any other
Exactly. Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think coming into college, and I was slightly concerned about it. I think the social image of mining, and that's something definitely want to go into further. Creates some barriers for a lot of people, and I think even for me going into college, that it was something that worried me. Just wanting to make sure that whatever career I had was safe and that it was going to be prosperous. But as soon as I got the opportunity to go to the Nevada gold mines and be on a true mine site, all those worries went away. Yeah, it's a great field. You get to meet people from all around the globe. You get to meet just interesting people, and it's been incredibly rewarding for me. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a much better story than mine, because the way I pursued mining was because I went to a career fair, and there
Mhm.
was this one guy who was at the mining booth, and he was extremely passionate about mining, and he just convinced me to try it. And I was with a group of people, and they were all saying, "Oh, we should as a joke, we should all go with mining because that guy, he was super passionate. So maybe." And they started laughing, and I was actually, and I believed them. So and that's
Mine
why I
was
actually got into it.
mine
Well,
was
you're the
pretty
lucky one.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
mine was pretty similar. I was, for example, studying at the beginning my electronical engineer, but then
Mm.
I had my best friend. She was studying my engineer, and she was passionate about it and talking me about it all the time. So yeah, I decided to quit electronical engineer.
Oh wow.
Was there?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
know our the Lowell Institute of Mineral Resources, which is one of the programs in our school, that they do a lot of work on outreach and trying to understand where people are not getting access to information about mining. And they've found continuously that as soon as they inform, especially engineering students, the potential opportunities inside of mining, that their interest skyrockets. And so I think, both your guys' examples, just getting mining out in front of technical minded people is something that could really, really benefit them and benefit our industry. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Mhm. So, what challenges do you think mining and geology students face in pursuing a career in mining when they can't make that decision?
Um, I think a few things, and we touched on some of these. Just to briefly reiterate, I think a lot of geology and mining students have trouble gaining access to good information about the industry, um, reliable, factual information about what they can do with their careers. Um, and so that can turn some people away from it. And then I think once geologists or mining engineers are on the track of pursuing a career in mining, such as like in my case, where I'm obviously actively studying mining engineering, I think that a few of the largest barriers have to deal with the general situation of mining, where it does tend to be rural, it does tend to be on a scale that is hard to replicate in a school. So like Mohammed, like you touched on previously, there is that major focus on gaining experience at mines. But I think that's difficult for students, given that we need to also be in class and be able to have those academic experiences. So I think creating that balancing act between getting on site, getting onto a mine, working on a project, as well as being able to balance that with academia is probably one of the hardest challenges for mining and geology students.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, Caelen, now let's talk more about the gender equality in mining. So I would like to ask you that, well, in some cases, we have heard that a lot of women feel like they are not included very well in the mine careers, and they decide to quit. So why do you think this is the case, and how can we make them feel included in the mining industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's um, you know, so when considering something as kind of daunting as large as this, um, to prepare, what I did was I asked a lot of my colleagues, and a lot of my friends here at university to get better insight of what their thoughts were. And I was surprised by the consistency of responses that I got. And the most prominent response across people I talked to, whether they were studying metallurgy, whether they're studying mine operations, wherever, is that they felt that it was really difficult going into the industry as a young person, because a lot of those first-time jobs are, on site, and the mentalities of a lot of the miners on site is very It's very, I guess, kind of rugged, and they interpret it as feeling like they get pushed out of those situations, being seen as less competent in some of those more rugged situations. And so I think just that exclusionary sense, not being in the common group of miners, is really damaging. I think it's tough. It would be, I think, if I were in their shoes, I think it would be really tough to be in a situation where I was really working hard, really trying hard as an engineer, geologist, whatever role I'm in, and just continually getting excluded, being considered not someone who's competent or should be in those situations. And so I think that's really damaging, because if you're in that situation, there isn't a good reason to stay in the mining industry. It's only a good reason to leave. And so I think changing that mentality on a very field-based level could make a major difference for our industry. Just being able to create an atmosphere where everyone is on the same team is something pretty major. And just one last thought on that, I think, going back to the whole social image of mining, I think it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense, that with the public image of mining oftentimes being very rugged, very tough, whatever you want to call it, I think that on site, a lot of those projections go into how miners treat each other. And I just don't think that's positive. If that could change to be more realistic, that the mining industry is not, a bunch of people with like shovels and picks digging up rocks, that it would be a lot more inviting, and it would be a lot less exclusionary to all sorts of groups. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now companies, I think now companies are realizing that, and they are like implementing more strong policies also. Well, this is the good phase. They are like implementing more strong policies for the inclusion, because also following the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, that it's fundamental, is one of the fundamentals SDGs. So for example, I can use Perlman as an example. In a certain point, they realized that there were no other women. So they started to implementing this. So that's the good phase of it.
Yeah. Is that how you got into ProMine?
The what, sorry?
I'm just curious, like, how did ProMine integrate that?
Yeah, they at a certain point they realized that women's the staff were there were more like men's than women. So they start like implementing or including more women in the work. So that now we can say that in our teams, we can say that there is more like an equality in the groups.
That's awesome. Yeah,
definitely.
that's really great.
From the commercial side, where there's a lot of females that are included. So that's we're trying to follow that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think, being able to have a diverse team is always helpful. You get new perspectives, you get new ideas. Yeah, I think it's something that every mining company, every team should strive for, to be able to have a good, solid, diverse group, really help improve their operations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Caelen, can you tell us a little bit about Young Mining Professionals Arizona and how it helps students in the mining sector?
Yeah, glad you asked. So yeah, Young Mining Professionals, we're the first US chapter of an international group. So Young Mining Professionals has chapters on every continent except for Antarctica, to the best of my knowledge. So we have a few chapters up in Canada. They're really great. Those are our most well-established chapters, as well as those out in Australia are very well established. But our chapter, the Arizona chapter, is one of the newer groups. And so we're still growing. And what we focus on is being able to bring good opportunities and new opportunities to young miners, as well as bring them events and types of programs to help them improve their leadership skills and their professionalism. So what that really accumulates to, and what the output of that is that goes to a lot of like networking events, as well as with other events with distinguished speakers like yourself, Mohammed. And before I go any further, I need to thank you again for putting on that amazing
You're most
presentation.
welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah. For everyone out there, if you want to watch a very great presentation on ProMine's new AI dilution software, we recently had Mohammed present to our group. It was a wonderful time. And so that's a good example of how we're bringing good opportunities to our members. We're enabling them to be connected with the best and the most advanced technologies in the industry. And really just trying to ensure that young mining professionals in the Southwest have access to, and so they have access to, like I said, the best and the brightest, but they also have access to each other. And that's where that networking component comes in. Just being able to ensure that there is a solid network of young miners who know that they're all together, I feel like is a very powerful motive, being able to have that sense of community. Yeah, and that's really the basis of young mining professionals. And to answer your question about how it helps students, is that I think going straight into the mining industry, it can be rather daunting because the mining industry is quite unique. So for students who are directly going into the mining industry, those are our best members. We really encourage all young students who are just joining the mining industry to join young mining professionals because it gives them the opportunity to hear from distinguished guests and leaders who have been in the mining industry for some time and be able to share their experiences with them. But it also gives them the opportunity to see what else is out there. And that's something that can be really tough, just jumping into the mining industry as a student. You can get blindfolded to all the opportunities that there are. And so young mining professionals kind of helps broaden their horizons. Being an international group, you get to see what miners in Australia are doing, what miners in Peru are doing. We have a chapter in Switzerland, so you can understand and learn about mine finance. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity, I think, for students and those who are just joining the industry to be able to get a better perspective and a broader understanding of what's all available to them, and also be able to learn how to navigate that.
Yeah,
Amazing.
definitely.
Yeah. Wow. Is that exclusive to students?
No. So young mining professionals is certainly not exclusive to students. We're going for really anybody who's roughly under the age of 40. So we're just looking for those who are just entering the mining industry, as well as with those who are in kind of the early phases of their career, where they might be considering switching positions, switching jobs. All of those areas, I think it's helpful to be able to have the advice and the leadership of peers, as well as with more senior members. And I think that's what YMP, one of the major pieces and one of the major benefits that YMP offers our members, is that we're able to help students, first year industry members, as well as those who are in their 5th or 6th year or 10th year, be able to navigate some of those tough decisions.
I see.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Perfect. So, well, Caelen, I would like to ask you from your point of view and your experiences too. What skills do you think that the university don't teach but are essentials when you're starting to work after graduating? And in which aspects can universities improve?
Yeah. So I think on the mining engineering side, and from my experiences, I think, as we previously touched on, being able to integrate more of those current and relevant software, I think that's something that universities should really go towards the opportunity, but also in a broader sense, and bringing it back to getting new people interested in mining. I think that universities can do a better job at integrating mining into other fields. So I think in our experience, or in my experience, being at the University of Arizona, we're a massive university. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but there's over 50,000 undergraduates. And so it's huge. And we have niche programs doing all sorts of things. I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I know that we have like a tree ring lab. Not exactly sure what they do, but we have it. And so the point I'm trying to get to is that we have all these diverse groups in our university, and like other mining universities have, but yet I see that mining a lot of times is secluded, it's more isolated. Some people like to use the word siloed. And I think that's really detrimental, both to students who are pursuing mining, but as well as to the industry as a whole. I think that university programs can do a much better job at integrating mining into other fields and being represented at other events, because in the status quo, maintaining a silo is not going to be beneficial. We're not going to be able to get as many diverse voices and be able to learn about new ways that could be more efficient, could really maximize an operation. So that's really where I see the biggest gap and the biggest opportunity for growth for university programs.
Excellent. And Caelen, what are your thoughts on the social image of mining and mineral exploration, and how can we improve? Once more, how can we improve?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a few areas that we could improve, certainly. And I think kind of going back to what I just said, I think one of the biggest barriers for other students to not be aware of mining is that social image. So even if they are aware, it's something that's not attractive. If the maintained image of mining being something that could pollute the environment, that's releasing CO2, is not going to be benefiting workers, if that image continues, it's going to be detrimental for the industry. And so I think in order to improve that, there needs to be a lot of
education.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it. Yeah, just general education, general knowledge. Yeah, and I think also touching on a previous point that we previously discussed, talking about data. And what I mean by this is that I think mining companies can do a better job at expressing what's going on at their operations instead of having kind of a veil of seclusion around them. And I think that can really help the general public understand what is actually going on at a mine site, that it's not anything that's destructive. It's not anything, nobody is on the mine site wanting to destroy the environment or do anything like that. I think it really comes to, at the end of the day, being able to articulate the point that miners are just people who like mining, just like a doctor likes to help with people's health. It's an occupation, it's something they do. There's nobody who's worried about doctors trying to pollute the environment, because they're just people, they're doing their job. And I think the same can go for miners, and getting that across, kind of getting across that information, that data, that mine sites are just a bunch of people. It's not too crazy. Being able to get that across could really help our social image, just allowing people to connect.
And I find that it's also very important to let people know about the sustainability in mining, how a lot of countries, not just companies, but a lot of countries, they realize how important it is to be sustainable when it comes to mining. I think that's a very underrated subject when it comes to that. And the fact that people really don't know that, some people, not everyone, of course, but some people don't know that without mining, we can't have anything in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally, like people write. Sometimes it's funny because people write on their phones made out of that uses gold that was extracted and transported by trucks that used fossil fuels, and they write that we should stop fossil fuels. But don't you realize that what you're holding in your hands is because of mining? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's a yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people, it's more like, well, obviously it's like a more worry about the environmental impact, but I think, as you mentioned, the key is to demonstrate and create social awareness that these impacts can be studied, controlled, and also mitigated with the new technologies and the science that we have available here
Of course.
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. And I completely agree. And I didn't touch on that, but yeah, mining is obviously just essential to everything that we're doing. And, you know, as much as I support recycling, and I do very much support recycling, we're still going to need more metals. We're still
Mhm.
going to need more aggregates and construction
Yeah,
materials. And if you can't grow it, you have to mine it. At the
absolutely.
end of the day, it's something that we need to do. And
Mhm.
you know, if we can put more time and energy and effort into making sure that every mine site and every ounce of gold that's produced is produced more sustainably and more responsibly, and that we're maximizing the efficiency of operations, that's just a net benefit for everyone.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great, Caelen. So I would like to ask you, where do you think are the gaps in the technical processes now in the, well, between the mining, and where would you like to see innovation right now?
Yeah. So with a lot of my focus on metallurgy, I think it's critical for us to be able to find other ways to leach material. Um, although cyanide does do a good job, I think that its widespread use, as well as its association and kind of the broader span of the public image, is really negative to mining. And so whether or not like that can be replaced with thiosulfate or bacteria, who knows? I think that's one area I would really like to see growth, certainly. And then another area I'd really like to see growth is, in particular, for artisanal and small scale gold mining. As you guys know, I'm very passionate about artisanal and small scale gold mining, and I think it's really devastating that there are still millions of people who rely on mercury, because it really is the most effective metallurgical process that they currently have to be able to extract gold. And so for me personally, I would really love to see innovation that can scale to better meet their needs of being able to have a mercury alternative. And you know, it's easy to look past that and only be focused on, I think, a lot of the large scale operations. But I think it is important for the mining industry to acknowledge the point that, you know, a fifth of the gold supply is coming from these types of mines. And the continuation of using mercury is simply, it's not a net benefit to anyone. Mercury is, you know, incredibly dangerous, incredibly poisonous. So
Mhm.
that's one example of where I'd really like to see innovation grow and develop.
Excellent. Well, I mean, as for me, I think innovation in terms of the actual process of mining. So we're very familiar with, okay, you drill and blast, you haul, and that's the normal procedure that we're familiar with. But and if you look at the current mining equipment, you're just gonna realize that there are much better version of what they used to do in the past, like a way much better version.
Mhm.
But I don't see a lot of innovation in the actual process. Like what if you use something else than drill and blast? What if you, instead of using trucks, you can use this for example, conveyor belts. Okay, so that's another innovation. But what else? What is something that doesn't require much, equipment as what we're doing now? So it's very interesting to hear a lot about, like biomining, what you just said as well, thermal, what is it called? Thermal something. The process where you essentially like heat the rock so that you don't use drill
like
blast.
thermal fracturing.
Something like that, yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting to hear about that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of innovation still. I think there's we didn't even start yet when it comes to innovation in mining. There's still a lot more to do, and it's interesting to see that we're lucky because we have the chance to do that, and we're the generation that's very familiar with technology.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that the previous generation isn't, but I'm just saying that we grew up with this, whereas the previous generation probably didn't have as much technology as we used to when we were kids. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
And you didn't mention the use of artificial intelligence too, for example.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
Very important. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So where do you guys think the next software innovation is going to go? Gotta ask.
I definitely think that a lot of people, well, a lot of companies are gonna want to have a lot of automation, things that are redundant and things that don't require human thinking will be essentially at some point it'll be just automized. We want this, we want to get that, and human involvement will be minimal. So the supervision done by humans will be minimal to the point that you will probably require one person per department to supervise, let's say, the process of robots that do these things here. I mean, let's hope it doesn't like get as bad as that. But I was just saying that this is a possibility, right? Because we literally have everything now. AI is becoming more famous. We have autonomous trucks. We have a lot of things that are automized right now. So who knows if you. So this is why, like, this brings me back to my previous point where I'm saying that because we're so familiar with the process, with the processes that we're using now, that it looks like these things can be optimized unless you come up with a completely different process that would get you more grades, that would produce less dilution, that would produce less waste, less haulage. So if you don't do that, then I'm sorry, but these things can be automized. It's we have no choice but to do that.
Yeah, I always think it's a kind of a daydream thought, but I always am curious to think about like what would happen if we were to take a group of, I don't know, let's just say like aerospace engineers over at NASA or something, and bring them to a mine site. Like I'm always curious to think what would they think? What would they think about the process that we're doing? Because like you said, going into the industry, everything is kind of set in stone. It's you have different versions, but it's all roughly the same.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's always a fun thought experiment for me to think about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, what they might think, what they might suggest.
Yeah, it's almost as if like we're in the food. If you compare ourselves to the food industry, and there's only one type of food that you eat, and you just have different versions of it.
Like sandwiches.
Yeah. Nobody wants pasta, right? It's still new.
Yeah.
But we should also consider the fact that a lot of mining companies are very conservative when it comes to research, because I mean, they pay like millions of dollars and they don't want to put like $10 million in one research project and not get anything out of it. So there's, again, a struggle between wanting a new innovation and not wanting to invest because you're too conservative. So it's like, I want this to be tested, but at the same time, I don't want to invest in it, but I still want people to use it. But it's like,
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because now I can do my final plug-in
yeah,
for
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's actually something that's I'm currently working on and really trying to address, is that risk for mining companies to
Mhm.
conduct that research, because as we've discussed, mining is usually conducted on such a large scale, and doing experiments that might be revolutionary, can cost
Yeah.
tens of millions of dollars. And so that's something that we're really trying to work on with our new student research programs, and with the new school of mining that we're trying to create down here, is being
Mhm.
able to find ways to de-risk experimentation for mining companies. And that's something that I find really exciting, because we're really
Wow.
looking
Yeah.
to try bringing together diverse voices to
Yeah.
just be able to see what can be done. It's pretty
Mhm.
exciting. Yeah.
That's some great work.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to, as we approach the end of this podcast, we just want to remind everyone that if you have a comment or question, feel free to leave it in the chat box here on Zoom. Or if you're watching us on Facebook, you can leave it in the comment section right below the video, and we'll get back to you at the end of this podcast. So, Caelen, are there any other projects you would like to mention?
Oh boy. No, I think I actually touched on everything. If you aren't a YMP member, I highly suggest everyone goes and visits the website, or just Google's Young Mining Professionals, and sign up. Membership is free, so it's just a great opportunity. Yeah, I think that's my last plugin, is to get that out there. But yeah, that's most of my projects. And if anyone out there is curious or wants to reach out, feel free to get in touch with me. Find me on LinkedIn, wherever, and
So
be
what's your
more than
full
glad
name
to
if
chat.
someone wants to reach out?
Gotcha. My name
Yeah.
is Caelen Burand here.
Caelen Burand.
If I put it in the chat, will it?
Yes, if you put it in the chat, people will be able to see it. Yes. So Caelen is Caelen. Burand is Burand. So
Yeah.
if anybody is interested in joining a huge network of mining professionals, then you should definitely check out Young Mining Professionals. And Caelen is always here to help you out. Excellent. All right. So let's read some comments here.
Question, yeah.
So we have a comment saying mining is like working in a larger sandbox than the one you were playing in when you were a kid. So I think this refers back to the question when we were saying, how did you, what made you start in mining? I think.
Mhm.
Yeah. It is definitely like a much larger sandbox. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like ants in
Awesome.
a sandbox.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Excellent. And it looks like on Facebook, no, we're good. All good. So this video will be up, is being recorded, and it's going to be uploaded to YouTube if anyone is interested in watching this podcast again. Caelen, it was a huge pleasure to have you. Oh, sorry.
Sorry to cut you off. There is one question.
Oh, there's a
Zoom.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's from Yvonne. And thanks, Yvonne, for
I think he was the one who made the comment.
Oh yeah, but there's a question. Yes. What are the important aspects?
Oh, in the Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Oh, I didn't, because I was looking at the chat box here. Okay.
Oh, you're good.
What are the important aspects of a job in mining for you?
Yeah.
So what do you think, Caelen?
I think for me, and I think this is something that I'm glad you asked, because I think this is common for all of my colleagues that I've met trying to go into the mining industry. I think what they really want to see is being able to make an impact on site. I think everyone wants to go into their job, whether they're an engineer or a geologist, and they don't want to plug away at redundant tasks. And I think that's by far the most important part of a mining job, is that it's something that's engaging, that's challenging, and involves like problem solving, being able to really work with the people on site.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
having the right tools as well.
Yeah, certainly can't do a good job without having the right tools. So making those available is really nice.
Yeah. So essentially, like you want to be able to find. I feel like because it's such a dynamic industry that you want to almost have a source where you can, ask a problem and find a solution for it, which is something. It brings us back to when we were talking about software and how it needs to be adaptable to the mining industry and how it needs to constantly look for new problems and solve them. So I think that's a really good point what you just meant.
Yeah, and I definitely think for software, it's incredibly valuable for people on site to be able to communicate with whoever's making their software, to be able to create unique configurations that match what they have. That's just phenomenally helpful.
For sure.
Not having to struggle through that on your own is, yeah, it makes a world of difference.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's check one more questions. Okay, we're good in the chat. So now I'm gonna check both just in case.
Double check.
We're good. Yeah. Facebook, no, we're good. All right, looks like we answered all inquiries. And Caelen, it was a huge pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all your thoughts with us and sharing your experience and your knowledge. We really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mom.
so
And
much,
thank you,
Caelen.
Paulina. Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
absolutely my pleasure. I've really enjoyed working with you guys. Yeah.
Very good then. All right. Well, have a great day then. Take care.
Thanks. You guys too.
Take care.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.